President Trump signed an executive order Friday restricting travel temporarily from 7 Muslim nations. Of course, protests immediately ensued. And protesters in California are taking hashtag CalExit, a secession movement, seriously. So we have an interesting proposal for the border wall. That's today on SkyWatchTV. It's Monday, January 30th, 2017. I'm Derek Gilbert. First up, Donald Trump's sweeping ban on people seeking refuge in the United States was met by what the media is calling chaos, panic, and anger, not to mention lawsuits. It's a 4-month hold on refugees in the United States, a temporary moratorium, 90 days, on travelers from Syria and 6 other countries. Of course, civil rights and faith groups, activists, Democratic politicians, particularly, were angry. Travelers were turned back Friday night. Borders immediately closed to refugees. Arab nations are furious. Our allies in Europe, particularly France and Germany, human rights organizations, United Nations, all screaming bloody murder. All except Israel. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu took to Twitter and posted this to his Twitter account: President Trump is right. I built a wall along Israel's southern border. It stopped all illegal immigration. Great success, great idea. The White House pushed back against the media-fueled uproar, calling the Muslim ban hysteria ludicrous. A senior official told reporters at the White House on Saturday that Trump's order blocks visa entries from Iraq, Iran, Syria, Somalia, Sudan, Libya, and Yemen for 90 days. Other Muslim nations like Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Turkey aren't affected. In fact, 87% of the world's Muslims can still freely travel to the United States. Even so, a federal judge in Brooklyn issued a partial ban on Trump's order late Saturday night. However, the Department of Homeland Security issued a statement Sunday morning saying it planned to continue to enforce all of the president's executive orders in a manner that ensures the safety and security of the American people. President Trump gave an interview to CBN, a Christian broadcasting network, on Friday, said his administration would prioritize Christian refugees from those countries, which led to an interesting confrontation Sunday morning between White House spokesman Sean Spicer and ABC's Martha Raddatz. She asked, why are Christian refugees more worthy than Muslim refugees? Now, this is a classic example of a loaded question. It's not a matter of Christian refugees being more worthy. It's prioritizing refugees who are most at risk in predominantly Muslim nations, where the violence is being committed by Muslim groups. The area, in fact, has been more or less depopulated of Christians. In Iraq particularly, there were 2 million of them when Saddam Hussein was in power. And during our watch, while our troops were in country controlling Iraq more or less, the number of Christians has dropped to below 200,000, some say as few as 120,000. The rest dead or ran away. Now, yes, maybe a religious test in cases like this does make a lot of sense, not only acceptable but necessary. And, oh yeah, Christian refugees don't have a track record for shooting or blowing people up in the country where they land. Now, I have to ask, where was all of this outrage from the left in 2011? You see, just about 6 years ago, President Obama banned all refugees from Iraq for not 90 days, for 6 months. And his action was barely noticed by the media. Trump only proposing a 90-day pause in immigration. Obama's action was prompted, according to ABC News, by the discovery in 2009 of 2 al-Qaeda Iraq terrorists living as refugees in Bowling Green, Kentucky, who later admitted in court that they had attacked U.S. soldiers in Iraq. That, according to ABC News, Martha Raddatz. 2 years later, Congress passed the Visa Waiver Program Improvement and Terrorist Travel Prevention Act. That restricted travel visas for citizens of states of concern. Guess which ones? The same 7 named in President Trump's executive order: Syria, Sudan, Iraq, Iran, and other areas of concern. President Obama promptly signed the law. In early 2016, the Department of Homeland Security unilaterally expanded these restrictions to include Yemen, Libya, and Somalia. What this meant was that the waiver program, the visa waiver program, did not apply to citizens of these countries. Travelers had to physically apply for a visa at U.S. embassies, which is kind of problematic in countries like Libya and Syria. In fact, there is no U.S. embassy in Syria, so they're not likely to be successful. And again, where were the protests in 2016? The legal and political basis for Trump's executive order was laid during the Obama administration. Trump has simply stopped pretending that visitors from these countries are welcome in the United States. Now, this has gone beyond the ridiculous. On Sunday morning, Senator Tim Kaine on Meet the Press conflated President Trump's executive order on travel with the White House statement on International Holocaust Remembrance Day. Because the statement didn't specifically mention Jews, Senator Kaine actually accused President Trump of being a Holocaust denier. Now, look, does anyone who knows anything at all about Adolf Hitler not know that the Holocaust was the wholesale slaughter of Jews? And secondly, Jared Kushner, President Trump's son-in-law, who holds an important advisory position in the Trump administration, is an Orthodox Jew. President Trump's daughter has converted to Orthodox Judaism. President Trump has said he will move the American embassy to Israel to Jerusalem. Does anyone with a thinking, functional brain think that President Trump is anti-Semitic? Now, the challenge for us as Christians is how do we process this without having our heads explode, as mine just did? Because Jesus told us to love our enemies, not just tolerate them, but to love them. So when you begin to react as I just did, take a deep breath, pray, and just say, bless their little heads. And Lord, lead them to truth. By which we mean the truth, the way, and the life. In other news, Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin held their first official communication on Saturday. Phone call lasted about an hour. The two reportedly agreed to coordinate on fighting ISIS and other terrorist groups in Syria. One of the reasons progressives are so upset at Donald Trump is that they're beginning to realize now that turnabout is fair play. See, the problem with legislating from the White House, which the Obama administration did through issuing rules and regulations, is that the next administration can just do away with them just as fast with the stroke of a pen without bothering to run new laws past Congress. Now, it appears that there is a little-known tool in a bill called the Congressional Review Act, which was passed a few years back, that Republicans could use to undo just about all of the Obama administration's work with a simple majority vote in Congress. And as you know, Republicans control both houses of Congress. Not only that, the Congressional Review Act prevents any future president from reissuing these rules. The CRA, you see, here's how it works. The CRA requires any federal agency that puts a new rule or regulation into effect to report back to Congress about the rule and how it's working within 60 days. Well, it seems the Obama administration has been rather lax in reporting to Congress. I mean, to be quite frank about it, the Obama administration has shown less respect to Congress than just about any presidential administration in history. Now, that means, according to the CRA, these rules can be challenged by Congress, or the Trump administration could choose to issue reports itself, which then would allow Congress to vote thumbs up, thumbs down on these rules. And again, if they vote thumbs down, no future administration could reissue these rules in the same form without bringing them to Congress for a vote. The Congressional Review Act was intended to rein in the power of a runaway presidential administration. And again, few administrations in history have ignored Congress as often and as thoroughly as the Obama administration. Coming up, women march on Washington, D.C. for the second weekend in a row, but this time it was different. That's next on SkyWatch TV.
Some of the greatest prophetic mysteries of the Bible that the world has ever pondered have now been carefully explored. And the SkyWatch TV store is bringing the exploration to you in the new Mysteries of the Bible Revealed special offer. In this special offer, you'll receive the new book by New York Times best-selling author Joel Richardson, Mystery Babylon. Richardson works through the history of the Christian interpretation of Mystery Babylon, weighing the strengths and weaknesses of each view, and then making a powerful case for a solution to this prophecy that will rock scholars around the world. You'll also receive The Mystery of the Shemitah from New York Times best-selling author Jonathan Cahn. This is a book you can't afford not to read. Cahn explores a possible 3,000-year-old mystery that may explain the timing of 9/11, the lies behind world wars, the collapse of nations, empires, and may hold the key to what lies ahead for the world and for your life. Plus, we'll also include in this special offer the unexplained mysteries of heaven and earth. Join author Ron Phillips as he combines his trademark theological balance with extensive historical research to travel through time to look at the flood, the Great Pyramid, the rapture, and much more. Altogether, this incredible offer holds an unprecedented retail value of over $50. Yours now for only $19.99 plus shipping and handling. So now you can explore the greatest prophetic mysteries of the Bible. Place your order for the Mysteries of the Bible Revealed special offer at SkyWatchTVStore.com now.
Tens of thousands of women descended in Washington, D.C. Friday. It was the 2017 March for Life. Vice President Mike Pence addressed the crowd. This was an historic speech because no president or vice president has ever addressed the annual event before this year. Vice President Pence said, "Life is winning again in America." And he added, "I've long believed a society will be judged by how we care for the most vulnerable." Amen. Pope Francis has declared that the theories of evolution and the Big Bang are real and that God is not to be perceived as a magician with a magic wand. The Pope was speaking at the Pontifical Academy of Sciences. Experts said the Pope's comments put an end to the pseudo-sciences, pseudo-theories of creationism and intelligent design. Yeah, good luck with that. The Pope said evolution and the Big Bang require a creator. Now, we should note that his comments really aren't new. Pope John Paul II declared that evolution was effectively proven fact. It is, however, an apparent departure from Pope Francis' predecessor, Pope Benedict. A disturbing report, 70% of the surveillance cameras, the CCTV cameras in Washington, D.C., were taken offline just before the inauguration of President Trump by ransomware. That's where hackers take over a computer or a network with a virus and basically hold it for ransom until the owners pay up. 123 of the 187 video cameras in Washington, D.C. were out of action between January 12th and the 15th. Of course, the inauguration was on the 20th. Forced the IT guys for the city of Washington, D.C. to wipe the devices and reboot the entire system. This raises some uncomfortable questions. Might somebody have been casing Washington, D.C. between the 12th and the 15th? Didn't want anybody to watch? Are these the only hackers who've gotten access to the CCTV system in D.C.? And what might a terror group do with control of the 187 cameras around our nation's capital? Speaking of science, by the way, many viewers caught this story last week because you're paying attention, and thank you for that. Scientists have created a human-pig hybrid in the lab. Pig embryos injected with human cells early in their development. They grew to about 4 weeks old. This experiment proves that human cells can be introduced into a non-human organism and survive, not only survive, but grow. In this case, scientists hope to use these chimeras to grow human organs for transplant someday, or at least that's what they say. The pig was chosen as the chimeric host because they're more human. Their systems are more like ours than, say, mice or rabbits. Scientists estimate the chimeras had about 1 in 100,000 human cells. The goal is to work up to creating entire functioning human organs inside these animals. Of course, this raises the question, how human does a chimera need to be before it's entitled to protection under the law? or before we begin to ask whether these animals have souls. The world not prepared for the next outbreak of Ebola. This is reported by the BMJ, the British Medical Journal. It looked at the recent Ebola outbreak in West Africa, found that most of the 11,000 deaths could have been prevented. Unfortunately, some of the critical issues that caused the high body count have not been addressed by governments and humanitarian groups. Parents, grandparents, be on the alert. A new social media app. It's called Yellow, and it's being described as Tinder for teens. If you're not familiar with Tinder, it's an app that adults use to hook up, basically. Yellow is aimed at teens, anyone over the age of 13. Parents discovering their children sexting, sending nudes via the smartphone app. If you have a teen or a preteen at home, I highly encourage you, go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/skywatch_TV, and search for the interviews we did with Opal Singleton of millionkids.org. It is a safe bet that your kids, your grandkids, are doing things with their smartphones at night that you don't know about. Basically, what's happening is people are coming into your child's bedroom that you would not let past the front door. A Muslim cleric in Egypt says Mary and Muhammad are going to get matched up in heaven. Dr. Salim Abdel Galil from the influential and prestigious in Islamic circles Al-Azhar University in Cairo says Muhammad would marry Mary. Apparently, he thinks this would be an honor for Mary. Needless to say, the Christians in Egypt are not amused. California threatening to cut its tax payments to Washington. This is a response to the Trump administration's threat to withhold dollars from sanctuary cities, which would include Los Angeles and San Francisco. The state government in Sacramento, California, looking for ways to offset the loss by withholding tax payments to Washington. California is one of a handful of donor states when it comes to tax revenue. In other words, they pay more to Washington, D.C. than they get back from the federal government. California also considering offering a third gender option on its official IDs. A bill introduced by a pair of Democratic state senators would offer a non-binary third gender option on driver's licenses, birth certificates, identity cards, and other court documents. Apparently, transgender people encounter discrimination when they present an ID that appears not to match how they appear. Now, we've told you before about the hashtag CalExit movement. That's a growing movement in California. People there who want to secede because of fear of what the Trump administration might do. In fact, a proposal now to secede from the United States has been submitted to the Secretary of State's office in California. They've got until July 25th to collect about 600,000 signatures in order to put it on a statewide ballot in 2018. Well, in return, some are suggesting the Trump administration make a slight adjustment to the proposed border wall. Yeah. This week on SkyWatch TV, Joel Richardson is our guest, the best-selling author, with the first of two discussions about his brand new book, Mystery Babylon. For a complete listing of dates and times, log on to the website, skywatchtv.com/channels. And you'll find all of my stuff online at derekpgilbert.com. And thank you for watching as we keep watch. I'm Derek Gilbert, and this is SkyWatch TV. Protest immediately ensued. And protesters in California are taking hashtag CalExit, a secession movement, seriously. So we have an interesting proposal for the border wall. That's today on SkyWatch TV. It's Monday, January 30th, 2017. I'm Derek Gilbert. First up, Donald Trump's sweeping ban on people. President Trump signed an executive order Friday restricting travel temporarily from 7 Muslim nations. Of course, our allies in Europe, particularly France and Germany, human rights organizations, United Nations, all screaming bloody murder, all except Israel. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu took to Twitter and posted this to his Twitter account: "President Trump is right. I built a wall along Israel's southern border. It stopped all illegal immigration. Great success, great idea." The White House pushed back against the seeking refuge in the United States was met by what the media is calling chaos, panic, and anger, not to mention lawsuits. It's a 4-month hold on refugees in the United States, a temporary moratorium, 90 days, on travelers from Syria and 6 other countries. Of course, civil rights and faith groups, activists, Democratic politicians, particularly, were angry. Travelers were turned back Friday night. Borders immediately closed to refugees. Arab nations are furious. The media-fueled uproar, calling the Muslim ban hysteria ludicrous. A senior official told reporters at the White House on Saturday that Trump's order blocks visa entries from Iraq, Iran, Syria, Somalia, Sudan, Libya, and Yemen for 90 days. Other Muslim nations like Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Turkey aren't affected. In fact, 87% of the world's Muslims can still freely travel to the United States. Even so, a federal judge in Brooklyn issued a partial ban on